This project is going to be for higher research students only, so that does not include bachelor students or master students, only for higher research students like PhD. Eventually they will make it for other students, but for this scope, it's only for.
The HPC cluster is a high performance computing cluster. It is a massive collection of computers which works together as nodes to run the application programs efficiently.
Our client has external file system. The system need to provide the interface to access the form, and need to check the form, and also need to store the form in the database. And the form will be submitted in every month or every quarter. And our system designed as a three-tier system with a web-based front-end, client-server at the middle tiers, and SQL Server database.
And this is what we have identified. We have had identified the stakeholders who are involved directly or indirectly with the organization and the Archibus system. What are the objectives, what are the constraints, what are the risks and strategy and overall approach, how we'll go about it, what are the test techniques that are involved in it, what are the assumptions, dependencies, risk, priorities, and what are the...
Firstly, I will give some background about our system. So we in charge with the HRMS, HR Management System by Oracle, and this is the application provided by Oracle EBIS. This have different submodel, and it's in each model is support for particular type of practice in HR. We have a new version, new update is RUP 8. So our main objective is to make sure that the new functions, the updated functions should work well with the new code, should work well, and the non-gen function and features should work well with the new code level.
The first feature is the machine name display on the node machine, web portal, and SSH client point to the correct machine. This means when a user click on any particular node, for example, Hybris file, to connect the system, should connect the client to the right node, not any other node.
And this, we recommend doing this in workshops of 2 or 3 hours where you get real students and staff to actually sit down with the system and follow some scenarios that are created. Other techniques are non-functional testing. As Raymond mentioned before, the security testing will be done by an external team. Performance testing is not a priority in this phase of the project, since it's only about 500 applicants a year. But if it's a success and it expands to all master students or bachelor students, then performance testing would be a good way to go. Also, usability testing will mostly tie into the user acceptance testing, so it's not as fleshed out as it's included in the user acceptance testing.
About feature out of scope, like the NSX file which generated from the web portal, because this is the third-party tool, so we don't test it.
Now I'm going to talk about the measures of our project. The measurement is a tool for tester to check the progress of the project testing. Also, it can also tell us how much task have you done. There is a number of metrics for us to check the progress of the project testing.
About feature out of scope, like the NSX file which generated from the web portal, because this is the third-party tool, so we don't test it.
Our team, actually the testing maybe just do all the works for the project, but for our team we can't touch the document and the date, so we just separate to the scope for our team. And the timeline we just design for the real test, but in this part the test scenario scripts, and we just like the test executions. I think that it depends on the test team, and the time maybe just adjust or depend on the code quality. So we don't just continue in this.
And before any test can begin, there needs to be a set of criteria in place so that test can start. Now these are the testing criteria. For example, the requirement document needs to be ready and signed off. The testing environment needs to be fully set up so the testing can happen. The testing data needs to be ready for testing. And the functions needs to be developed and ready for testing. All testing scenarios needs to be fully documented, and the test case uploaded to Jira, which is a management system I'll talk about later.
Graph. So next part I will just describe the strategy we have just designed. The first strategy is we just consider the test team just working with the development team, and they just working as one team, and they just go through every part of the development life cycles. So and the strategy two is just different. They just play as a third party. So when the code has already developed, and they just handle this code to the testing, and they just do the test independent. And after the testing, they just handle the test report to the project, and they will just analyze the code quality.
And then, in case of blocking issue happens, then the testing might be delayed, and to avoid this testing to be delayed, immediate actions needs to be taken. So it's better to gather developers, testers, and business analysts to go over what's wrong and how to solve it as fast as possible.
So one of the risks or the constraints that you rightly identified for this project was lack of resources. It's a relatively small project team. Yeah. What I didn't quite get from your presentation, though, is some strategies to overcome that or to mitigate that risk. Is that something that you thought about?
Yeah. Do you want to cover that then?
I believe we didn't cover that in our slide, but we covered it in our report. So we put a template with example of some of the risks that we have identified. So for example, one of the risks is lack of knowledge about McAfee gateway. Mm-hmm. How do we track the problem? So we have two columns, right? How do we track the problem, and how do we solve it, right? So to track the problem, sometimes we can't track these problems. So we put a not applicable, but if it is, we'll put the way to track it there, because every risk needs to be tracked to avoid being a bigger problem.
Okay, so you've got all of the test cases stored in a database.
So did you guys create some of your own test cases, or are these just example test
No,
cases?
we actually developed the test case for the web portal, for LDAP, and for Notes.
Oh, so you've actually developed test cases?
Yes.
What do you think, what's the objective of this upgrade? How it's going to benefit the business? Like any new feature in your test case, would you like to identify this is a new functionality or it's all existing?
This all are the basis on the business requirement that we got, and on the basis of that we have developed this kind of test cases. It will develop what is the actual test function. We have not came up with what it will be upgraded to the Archibus, but we are concerned with the REST API that the data that we get from the SES or the NEO is as same as to the goes to the vendor. There should not be any changes, there should not be performance delay, there should be quality assurance, because we actually don't have a hand on Archibus and we can't have any functionality that we're going to add into Archibus. Our job was to get the data and give it to the vendor as it is appropriate, and it has to be timely and it has to be in quality, and whatever it is demanded has to be delivered, even if it's 1 record, 5 records, or 5,000 records.
Great.
And can you tell me about track? So there was mention of track in the slides. How does that relate to this?
Yeah, because in our test plan we think about the defect management system. With defect management system, we should use, and after we get information from Patrick that we are currently using track. So because it's not reasonable to move another, because a lot of database and a lot of historical data already in the track, so we keep using it rather than move into another. Yes.
Okay.
Were you able to do kind of a pros and cons analysis around, well, the pros of using an automation tool is obviously there's less requirements for human beings to do the testing, but what are the cons? Like, how difficult would it be to set up? How difficult it is to maintain? What's the expense of it? Did you get a chance to do that kind of analysis?
I don't think they have.
Another part we find that might be a con is that running Selenium, this program actually takes lots of hardware resources. So if you really run it, let's say if, for example, if I'm testing it, if I have only one computer and automation is running, that means I can only have a cup of coffee, can't do anything else, right? But if, say, in a sense, if I have two computers, if I have two stations, one is just running, then I can do something else on the other one. In that sense, I think we can speed it up. So it's kind of like a con, but it's kind of like a pro. Depends on how it's implemented.